Hi, I'm Laura McHarrie at The Hidden Edge with another tea break tip on how to use business models and tools to help you manage your growing business. Today, we're looking at how to attract the right candidate. I'm not talking about where you should look. This is about making sure that you know how you will manage the right candidate so that they can be the very best they can possibly be, and what's more, want to work for you above everyone else. Following previous videos, I've chosen the Rainmaker's job role to use as my example. Different job roles will require different considerations. Like any piece of work that you pitch for, you will be competing for the good Rainmakers with dozens of other firms. So you need to know your labour market, know your ideal client, and match his or her needs. Recruiting is, after all, a selling job on your part. So let's have a look at the process. Let's remind ourselves about the personality traits of the Rainmaker. So there we go. The Rainmaker, the salesman in your company is going to be charming, action-orientated, fearless, focused, mentally tough, mindful, and ruthless. Bearing in mind that we need to make sure that they also have integrity so that it counters the ruthlessness somewhat. Now, the thing is that we can look at the personality trait and recognize that certain things that they like to work with that will make them a better employee. So here's a checklist that will help us attract the Rainmaker. They like praise and recognition for achievements. So what are you doing about short-term goals? And how do you keep public score of those goals? How do you recognize their achievements? They like to win, or at least appear to win. So what have you got in terms of competitions and incentives? And how do you allocate the key accounts? They like the freedom to do it their own way. So you might want to use a consultative management style. Have a freedom framework. That's not to say you let them loose on and they can make all their own decisions, but they need to have a framework within which they can make their own decisions. They respect efficiency, so use bullet points, keep it short, sharp, to the point. They like plush working conditions, so do consider positioning of desks and cars, what sort of cars you give them, the pens that they use, the cards that you give them, and of course, make sure they have the most up-to-date mobile phone. They like to feel secure. They won't ever confess to that, but do make sure you train them well. Do keep them in the loop. Make sure that you have management meetings, whether that's online or offline, so that they know where the company's up to. And above all, pay them as much as you can afford. Now, I left that one till last because it's one of those contentious issues of, do we pay their salary or do we pay them by commission, or do we pay something in between? My recommendation is that you do something in between, very simply because any salesperson worth their salt will be snapped up by your competition. And in reality, if you can keep them, it will be much better for you. So looking at the commission aspect of it, there is this is a template that you might want to use in order to make sure that if you're going to offer a commission, that it's actually going to benefit the business. My experience is that it can be quite a difficult exercise. And at one point in Excel Clothing, I found that in particularly a couple of poor months, when we hadn't even covered the basic overheads of the business, we were still paying money out in commission, which was crazy. So understand how you measure for commissioning basis. Do you do it by turnover or do you by gross profit? If the sales staff have control of the gross profit margin, in other words, if they can perform a cost plus calculation when quoting for the customer, then use gross profit as the measure. If you sell by price list and the margin control rests with the company alone, as is the case with here, then measure it by turnover. So in this particular example, the left-hand column is showing the turnover and the increases in turnover, and we're marking it out of a 50% margin. Sales targets must drive business. Without targets, you can never measure poor performance as there's no marker. Best efforts are not sufficient a yardstick for performance discussion. So what do you set the targets at? Well, a salesman's average in your business is a useful starting point, followed by maybe an analysis of similar businesses. If you call up one of your competitors and understand how many sales staff they retain, then you can quite easily pull a copy of their accounts from Companies House and divide the turnover by the number of sales staff to get their average. Targets are highly emotional, and it is important to make it as clear as possible what people can achieve. Do make sure that you calculate the overheads of the business so that you can, and divide them by the number of sales staff that you have, so that you can derive the bare minimum that a salesperson will have to achieve in the company in order for the company to break even. In this example, sales targets were set at 10,000. As the salesman doesn't have full control over margin, so we look at it as a turnover target. Our margin is 50% in this case, and if you have a look at the very first £2,500 worth of business bought in, the Rainmaker would get nothing. The company gets £1,250 out of that because it's on 50% margin. But if you multiply that by the net profit percentage, in other words, taking out the overheads, actually the company only achieves £375 plus to its bottom line. And as you can see, there is an incremental increase in turnover and percentage paid to the Rainmaker. Equally, that gives us a net profit for each of the sales that come through. But you will see that the net profit decreases. And the reason for that is that as the increase of sales come in and the business comes in, the business of delivering the services or the products becomes more expensive because extra people need to be brought in or extra resources need to be applied. So whilst the 20,000 turnover looks very healthy for the Rainmaker, actually it's only the same quantity in bottom line profit for the business. So because of the extra overheads that it generates. And so it's also important to note that the net profit contribution changes will have an impact on the business. But of course, you also need to make sure that if you're bringing extra business in, that you can actually manage it. It would be absolutely crazy to pay out commission when actually the company cannot perform and deliver what it says it can do for the customer. One final thing on this particular template is that the incremental increases in commission helps alleviate the issues of sales bagging. In other words, got to the target, got to the 10,000 target, no point in delivering any more. We'll save it up for the sales for the next month so that we can maximise the amount of commission paid. So in this particular instance, there's an incremental increase in percentage paid to the Rainmaker in order to make sure that sales bagging doesn't exist. So there you go, a simple explanation as to how you might attract the right salespeople for your business. Have a go. You can download the templates from the Hidden Edge website. Do share your stories there too. I am building a portfolio of small business case studies and would love to include examples of what's worked well for you. So that's it from me on the commission and how to attract great salespeople to your business. Till next time.